This video cost me, I think, $250 to produce, and it ended up producing 20,000 US. In the last year, it's close to 7 figures. In Q4 alone, I did 400,000, nearly $500,000 in AdSense revenue.
The question is, how? How does Noah Morris earn up to $200,000 per month on YouTube, working just 1 day a week? The answer may trigger you. Faceless channels. Welcome to the world of YouTube automation. From humble beginnings as a Minecraft creator earning no more than $100 per month of AdSense revenue, Noah now runs over 20 faceless channels and is barely out of his teens. Now, when it comes to YouTube automation and faceless channels, I will be the first to confess I am a complete noob. And in my humble opinion, of course, faceless channels have somewhat of a controversial reputation. So I spent an hour talking to Noah about his business model. And the thing I wanted to know most was, could it be done by complete beginners like me and you? Let me spoil the answer for you now. Yes. And especially after this video, because Noah told me everything. A step-by-step approach on how to find the right niche, the right people, not to spend too much money, but earn tons from it. So, let's just jump right in.
Originally, I found this niche, the channel is called Court Cases. The second video got 5 million views. You can also show the earnings. This video cost me, I think, $250 to produce, and it ended up producing 20,000 US.
Okay, Noah, based on that information, I might just quit my job and start a faceless channel. But I'm gonna need a niche, right? Which are the best paying niches?
For me, it's sports, celebrity content, crime-related content, and essentially everything that American people watch. And American audiences just have higher RPMs. So some of these channels, especially in Q4, can get insanely high RPMs. I'm talking sometimes $14 to $15 RPMs.
So are there any standard techniques that you can teach us that will help us find niches like that?
It's a very consistent process you have to get a hang of. So I would be every day going on YouTube Incognito and refreshing my homepage, and then pressing on the YouTube Cash Cow content. So YouTube would recommend me more YouTube Cash Cow content, and I would be able to find those new channels getting recommended. So that's one way I teach. Another way would be the keyword method, where I would input random keywords, like let's say basketball. I would go to most viewed and this month, and I would scroll through all the channels. I would actually use vidIQ to essentially look at the subscriber count, and I would look at the amount of views a channel would essentially have. And then when I found a channel that has a bunch of views, small amounts of subscribers, that would probably be a channel that started recently. And if I found multiple channels like that, I'm talking if they're getting above 200,000 views a video, and very, very consistently as well, and there's maybe 2 or 3 of these types of channels that started recently, that's when you find a gap in the market.
Wow, Noah, what you've just told me right there is what other people might charge $5,000 for in a course. This is essentially a blueprint, right, for faceless channels. So let's say I found a bunch of channels like this. What do I do next?
So after you found that niche, you want to think about, okay, is it not too saturated? You know, you have 2 sides you can choose on YouTube automation. Either you make really, really high quality content, and you can basically get into every niche, or you just make sure you have that first mover's advantage and you produce less quality, but you make sure you're first to a niche. So that's step 1 always.
And then step 2 would be?
Obviously, you come up with the topics. I would suggest for your first few topics, try to emulate what the existing channels are doing. So for example, for the Court Cases channel, right? What I was doing is, obviously, I first looked at Courtroom, which is the channel I was emulating. But then I was thinking, okay, other than these topics from Courtroom, see if there's any other older related channels. So in this case, I was researching and I found out he was taking the original topics from the A&E YouTube channel. So I started studying what videos did well in the past on the A&E YouTube channel, and which of those topics haven't been done by my competitors before. And I'll take those topics and put them on my own channels. Obviously, if you look at Court Cases, I even integrated the trend of Jeffrey Dahmer at the time. So you can get very creative with it, as long as your decisions on your channel are always backed by data. Normal YouTubers, they would usually create topics based on feelings. A lot of the times I see that happening, but you really want to make decisions based on data and what did well in the past.
So I'm guessing at this point we're getting really close to the actual production of videos, is that right?
So a lot of people always say, okay, go straight away to hiring a script writer. This is not the case. You can definitely just start a YouTube channel and then eventually turn it into a YouTube automation channel. That's very, very doable. When someone's never done YouTube, I suggest they just start as a regular creator. The downside is very small. You get experience firsthand. I know very well how to video edit. I know very well how to script write. But if you've never done that before and you immediately start hiring, you're very disconnected with your team, right? So script the videos yourself, get an AI voiceover. They're getting really, really good now. And do the video editing yourself until you break even or you're making a profit, and then start outsourcing.
Okay, so this is encouraging, Noah. You're essentially saying that anyone can start out with zero budget, and it might actually be the right way to do it to learn the craft. But what if I wanted to build out a team like you? What do I do?
You want to find a team that carries the passion for you. Essentially, you don't only outsource the work, you also outsource the passion. Once you've identified your niche market, your topic, that's when you know who to hire. For scriptwriters, I highly recommend finding someone who is passionate about the subject. I would rather hire a scriptwriter who knows nothing about YouTube retention and who is very, very passionate than a scriptwriter who is like a retention nerd but knows nothing about, for example, crime documentaries or tennis. You need a scriptwriter that matches the target audience before you focus on retention, because retention is something you're able to teach someone, and passion you can teach. So when I search someone for a specific sport, I'll go into a Discord channel that has people who play that sport, and I'll ask, like, is there anyone interested in earning a little bit of money on the side? Or I'll contact people who run a blog about a specific sport. These are really good places to get those scriptwriters from.
Do you have any specific advice on hiring voiceover artists and video editors?
Voiceover actor doesn't really matter. Just try to find someone, again, that matches or appeals to your target audience. So if it's crime, find deep male voice. If it's gossip content, try to find a high-pitched girl voice. But your video editor doesn't necessarily have to have any affiliation with the niche or content itself. Just make sure they understand retention-based editing very, very well, that they're able to tell stories very well through finding the right clips to use online.
What about thumbnails? Because we know a lot of creators struggle with this, Faceless channel or not.
The thumbnails at the start, I usually like to design myself, simply because a lot of thumbnail designers are great designers, but they're not good at understanding what makes an audience click. If you look at the Court Cases YouTube channel and you look at the thumbnails, they're not very complicated, but they got results. You first want to teach yourself, okay, what type of thumbnails do work here? Then once your channel does well, you want to start outsourcing that process. So now you teach the thumbnail designer and you give him inspiration for the thumbnail. He simply does the designing or putting the thumbnail together. The concept you still do. And after a while of working together, maybe a few months, that's when you say, okay, now you do the full process. Now you're in full charge of making sure these videos get views.
Noah, you've already mentioned a lot of this point, but what are we missing right now? You mentioned retention hacks. Tell us more about that.
What I usually teach the scriptwriter essentially is I send them all the channels of our competitors. I say, okay, have a look what people are mentioning in the comments, and also look at the relative YouTube retention. If you hover above the YouTube play bar, you see this transparent up and down mountains above the YouTube play bar. That's relative retention. Look at the relative retention and see where the points of interest are in the video. And same thing for the comments. It's like a library of understanding what people are interested in, right? The retention comes from understanding your audience mainly. It's not about like secret editing hacks, not so much. It's about understanding what moves your audience to take action or to comment, to engage, to watch more videos. Studying the target audience in that way would be my biggest retention hack.
All right, I feel like I'm suddenly pumped for Faceless channels, and now thanks to you, I have all of the strategies to start. So what's the best case scenario? How much can you make from YouTube automation with Faceless channels?
In November of last year, I think I did around $200,000 in a month in YouTube AdSense revenue.
And how much would you say on average it costs to start a Faceless channel?
Beginners, I would say it could probably take up to a month for them to get started. But for me personally, it takes about 2 weeks to start up a channel, to get that first video rolling, and maybe to get to that first 1,000 to 10,000 views. I would start seeing a return at video number 12. But let's say the average video cost would be $100. That would cost me like $1,000 to $100 to break even. For beginners, I would say $3,000, $3,500 of videos that are $100. So 35 videos, I think.
What would you say is the hardest thing about YouTube automation?
The hardest part would be a good thumbnail designer and a good edited.
I mean, talking about lifting the lid on an entire YouTube industry, you've just got it all right there. And if you do want to learn more about faceless channels and YouTube automation, then follow Noah on Twitter. Link is in the description. Now, Noah mentioned that one of the key components of a faceless channel, or any video for that matter, is the editing of it. And it turns out there are 4 editing secrets that will help you hack retention. And this is how you do them.